it's probably the most beneficial and productive 5 minutes we've ever created in our permaculture career. The project was almost an impossibility at the outset. We were given this desolate piece of land to design, and all we could do was stick purely to the system of permaculture, water harvesting, integrated living systems, and no frills, everything just cut to the bare minimums of this is the most precise way we could do it, and we got this great result. And because of the comparison of the surrounding landscape, because of the location, which is quite interesting because it's geopolitically, geoculturally, geohistorically such a well-known part of the world, it got this great attraction and attention, which is just what we needed at the time to say, look, we can do this. It's no great rocket science thing. We can actually put this together, even in a salted, flat, arid, lowest place on earth site. And it goes on as one of these great examples. I'm so grateful we were given that possibility to do that work and create this little segment called Green in the Desert, which I hope continues to help people. So we went and had a look and we thought, oh no, this is the end of the earth. This is like as hard as you can get. This is hyper arid, and it's 10 acres of almost dead flat, completely salted landscape, 400 metres below sea level, the lowest place on earth, 2 kilometres from the Dead Sea, right, to about 2 kilometres where Jesus was christened. We've hardly got any rainfall. We've got temperatures in August that go over 50 degrees. Everybody's farming under plastic strips. Everybody's spray. Everybody's putting synthetic fertiliser on. Overgrows with goats, just like maggots eating the flesh off the bone down to the bones of the country. Literally like maggots, giant maggots eating it to nothing. So we designed up a system that would harvest every single bit of rainwater that fell on it. On 10 acres, there's 1.5 kilometres of swale water harvesting ditch on contour, and when they're full, 1 million litres of water soak into the landscape, and they'll fill quite a few times over a winter. And then we heavily mulched those swales with organic matter, which was trash from organic fields nearby, and we put that almost 0.5 metre deep. So we saved that and mulched our swales, which are about 2 metres wide and 0.5 metre deep on the trench. Then we put micro irrigation underneath the mulch, and then on the uphill side of the water harvesting trench we put nitrogen fixing very hardy pioneer desert trees, which help shade and reduce wind evaporation, and also put nitrogen into the soil and structure the soil for us. And then on the lower side of the trench we put fruit trees, majoring in date palms as the long-term overstory in the end, and then we put in figs, pomegranates, guavas, mulberries, now some citrus. Within 4 months we had figs 1 metre high with figs on, which is impossible. We've done a course, male and female course, trained up some locals, and we got a translator who's working for the project. He had his degree in agriculture in the Jordan University, and he got onto his mates and said in the agricultural department, well, you said we couldn't grow figs, we got figs growing and we got figs on them. You better come and test the soil, because no matter what you say, we're either growing in salty soil what we shouldn't be growing, or we've desalted the soil, and we'd like to know what we've done. They came in and the salt levels were dropping, so they became interested. The salt levels were dropping around the swales. They said you must have washed it through. See, normally put a huge amount of water on and wash the salt through to the lower levels, which just makes the groundwater more salty. In the end, you'll salt it 20 metres deep if you keep doing that, and then it will take 1,000 years to recover. And we used only 1/5 the amount of water. So the water, they thought we'd washed it all through. No, we'd used 1/5. That really got them. when they realised how much water we hadn't used. With the same amount of water normally used on that much area, we could have done 50 acres. Originally, people laughed at us because we didn't put straight lines in. We went on contour with these swales. They thought, why don't you put it straight? You've got a bulldozer, you can flatten the desert, you can straighten. So we want to go on contour because we've got a longer edge and we harvest the water passively. Then we planted more non-fruiting trees than we did fruit trees. So they laughed at us. You're planting unproductive things, more than productive things. What's the point, you know? In soil that won't even grow anything, so, you know. And then we covered all the inside of the swale with a huge amount of mulch, where they scrape all their organic matter off and burn it, like most traditional agriculture. In the middle of winter, we got a funny email saying, we've got a problem. We've got mushrooms growing in the swale. Well, they called it fungus, but when we saw a photograph of it, it was mushrooms, because they'd never seen mushrooms, because they'd never had that much humidity in living history in the soil. And when you open up the mulch, there's all these little animals there, you know, there's little insects, and the soil has come alive. And the fungi net that's underneath the mulch is putting off a waxy substance which is repelling the salt away from the area. And the decomposition is locking the salt up. And the salt is not gone, it's become inert and insoluble. So we could regreen the Middle East, we could regreen any desert, and we could desalt it at the same time. And if we can do it on an insignificant, flat, little bit of 10 acres of flat desert, if you give us something with catchment, or a wadi, or a canyon, or any of those erosion gullies, we can turn it right around completely. You can fix all the world's problems in a garden. You can solve them all in a garden. You can solve all your pollution problems and all your supply line needs in a garden. Now, most people actually today don't actually know that, and that makes most people very insecure. Well, like a lot of aid projects, once the funding ran out, it didn't continue to be funded. It went on to caretaker funding, because there were scenarios around aid funding. But because it's a perennial system, and because it works mainly on rainfall, the tiny bit of rainfall that you get, it's continued to develop itself. And I mean develop itself. And it's building soil. We continue to document it, although it's not well funded. It continues to produce, and it's still used by local people as an example. And what is really interesting for us is the depth and quality of the soil that's been created in that zone of the project, and that we have some great photographs of, and it's really worth looking at that as the ultimate result. From really barren, salted soil to very fertile, high humus, dark topsoil, created by the ecology we put together after the water harvesting earthworks were established. The ecology we put in place continues today to become more and more fertile all the time.